Hey there, viewers, it's Charlie, I'm back again, and well, do you remember my review of Dreadwing from Transformers Energon? In that video, I showed his packaging, and on the side, it had a little cross-sale. Not only did it have Ironhide and Shock Blast, so I have reviewed before, but it also showed Cliffjumper. And in that video I said, well, I'm planning on getting Cliffjumper soon. Yeah, it did take a couple months, but hey, I finally have Cliffjumper in my collection. Or do I? That's right, folks, this is actually Overdrive. So yeah, today's review is actually going to be on Superlink Overdrive. So yeah, this is the Japanese version of Cliffjumper. And while he's still that green and yellow beach buggy that Cliffjumper was, he does have a few color differences, which we'll get to after a little 360. So looking at the details first, we can see that, well, he has these missile launchers at the front with these missiles. And they do shoot pretty well. And I'm going to keep these missiles off for now in case I accidentally shoot myself later on, as that has happened before with other figures. Restricting my camera. Here we can see a little spoiler thing here. Here we have the back, and even though this looks like a battery cover, it actually isn't. And even though this looks like a button, it's not. For some reason, the Japanese version of this guy just does not have any licensed sounds, or it does not have any electronics in it for some reason. I don't know why Takara cut that out. I mean, because remember, Ironhide had licensed sounds. Sure, they were annoying, but he had licensed sounds nonetheless, but that was the Hasbro version of the figure. But yeah, the Hasbro version of Cliffjumper does have licensed sounds. Having a look at the underneath, we can see some big fists, and if you know anything about the Energon Autobots, you'll know why there's big fists here. And the top, which has a mini-com port, so if you want to attach an Armada Cliffjumper who came with Cheetor from Armada, you can just plunk him up there. And we also have the Energon Starport, like what all Energon figures had. Now, of course, this is the Japanese version, or the Superlink version, so it does have some color differences. While Cliffjumper's windshield was red, Overdrive's windshield is more of an orange color. And with Cliffjumper, the green was a bit more bright than this, because here we have this like olive green, and I really like this style of green. Overall, I actually preferred the Japanese color scheme for this guy over I can't know if I speak. I prefer the Japanese colors over the European and American version of the color scheme. I just think it's way cooler. But there is another bit of coloring in the robot mode that's exclusive to the Japanese version that I really like. But before we get onto the transformation, as I showed earlier, we have the box. And right now, this is my only Japanese box in my collection. Because, well, Overdrive is pretty much my second Japanese figure. Because if you remember, I also have Galaxy Force Skids, who was supposed to be Cybertron Clocker. So this is my second Japanese figure. Or, well, the second Japanese figure in my collection right now. But before we go off on a tangent, let's have a look at the box. Here we have Cliffjumper, or Overdrive himself. Here we have his name in Japanese, as well as in English, so you know it's Overdrive. Takara, because Takara is the company that sells the Transformers in Japan. Cybertron, SC-18. Cybertron obviously being the Japanese name for the Autobots. But this looks like little... Well, this is supposed to represent the Powerlink gimmick that the Energon Autobots had. Got an actual flap, similar to the G1 boxes. The top just shows Overdrive again. 3 stars, so he's a 3-star conversion pretty much. I'm pretty sure this tells you about the Powerlink gimmick, although I don't know, it's in Japanese. The underneath, which just shows a sad Pac-Man. The guy face palming because he thinks the Energon's colors are a bit stupid. But the side of the box shows him combining with Ironhide, and we will get to that later on. The other side just shows Cliffjumper or Overdrive himself, and the back, which, unlike with the American versions of the figures, it actually shows a G1-esque battle scene, albeit with the actual figures instead of the artwork. Because if this was the Energon version of the box, it would have Cliffjumper, like, just plastered on the box, and then, like, somewhere it would have some cross-cells. However, the Japanese box does have some cross-cells, and we'll get to that later. Here we have Overdrive or Cliffjumper himself, still showing the Powerlink gimmick. And here we have the cross-cell. And I'm going to read these guys' names out, as well as their Japanese names, because, come on, this is the Japanese box. So right here we have Optimus Prime, or as he's known in Japan, Grand Convoy. Here we have Hotshot and Inferno, their names stayed the same. Ironhide, or Roadbuster. Jetfire, or Skyfire. Strong Arm, or Blast Arm. Skyblast, or Air Glide. The Energon Saber. Perceptor, or as he was known in Japan, Cliffjumper. I'm not joking. So, this is Cliffjumper in America, and this is Cliffjumper in Japan. Anyway, Rodimus, or Rodimus Convoy, Prowl, or Red Alert, Signal Flare, his name didn't change, Prime, or a Grand Convoy, and this is the one that can combine with the other deluxe Autobots. Kicker, Landmine, RC or Aerial, Wing Saber, Cliffjumper or Overdrive, and Downshift, or as he's known in Japan, Wheeljack. And remember, the Energon series, these guys' names were mixed up all the time in the dubbed version of the series. And here we have the Decepticons. So we have Starscream or Night Scream, Scorponok or Mega Zarek, Battle Ravage, and that's going to be my next review. But Battle Ravage, or I think Battle Jaguar, Dive Bomb, or I think Cyberhawk, or I think it was Cyberhawk, I'm not sure what his Japanese name was. Shadowhawk, that's what his name was, Shadowhawk. But Snowcat or Snowstorm, Demolisher or Iron Tread, Cruellock or I think Dinobot, Shock Blast or Laser Wave, Megatron or Galvatron, Mirage or Shock Fleet, and finally an Insecticon or Chromehorn. So that's the cross-cell figures and their Japanese names. And that's pretty much it for the box. Oh yeah, and it has the 20th anniversary thing there. And of course now, Transformers is over 35 years old. So, yeah. But having a look at the actual figure, well, we already have, having a look at the transformation, because I've already showed the figure. Of course, I've had to raise the camera because this is one of the bigger figures. And, well, This guy's transformation is actually pretty complicated. I mean, definitely more complicated than a normal character named Cliffjumper. So, to start, what I'm going to do is split this bit open and try and get these missile launchers out. They just attach onto these holes with these pegs. Straighten out the spoiler section with the wheels. Get them up and out the way for now. With the front wheels, push them up. Take the front bumper and try and actually split that. Well, not like that. That is part of the transformation, but what I was meaning was take these bits and straighten them out like so they cover the wheel. There we go. Next, take these bits and move them down and out the way. Speaking of out the way, try and lift this up. Then do what the legs did earlier when I was trying to just split the bumper. And just make him do the splits. So, already before the articulation, we know he can do the splits. But move the legs down. Then come in here, take these bits and move them down to form heels. Take this bit, move that to the back. Straighten out the wheels. Have them go up here and then plug them into this little bit. You see there? That just goes into there, if it will. I probably don't have this correctly, but eh. There we go. Then rotate the wheels around. So they're like cool turbine things, which look pretty cool. Next, come in here to what was the windshield section. Split that. Move that to the side. Take the spoiler thing and that forms his little chest shield. Lift these up to form his shoulder pads. And then come in here and flip out his fists. And here we have Cliffjumper or Overdrive in robot mode. And yeah, this is a cool looking figure, especially the Japanese version, because going back to the colors, the Energon version of the figure, well, as I said, the green was a bit lighter, but also the Energon version of the figure did not have this gold coloring on the shoulder pads, and that is amazing, because the Energon figure just had these as plain yellow, but the Super Link version, these are colored golds. I think it's probably just gold paint, but still, that is amazing, and it really makes them stand out compared to your other figures. And remember, this is a time when the Hasbro and Takara version of the figures could be colored very differently. I mean, just look at Tidal Wave compared to its Japanese release, and then as well as Scorponok in its Japanese release. But yeah, this is one of those figures where the Japanese version of the colors looks the Japanese version of the colors looks way cooler in my opinion. I just think the gold makes them pop more. But now we can take the little missile launchers, stick those in his hands. If that's how you want to display him, this is how I display him, with these in his hands. But we do have some other things to look at first, so I'll just move these to the side for now. There we go. For one, let's have a look at this guy's head. And as you can see, it's not really a Cliffjumper-esque head. He has these cool-looking Cyclops from X-Men-esque goggles. Oh well, at least it reminds me of Cyclops. I don't know why. It's a different like design for the eye goggles though. But still, even though the head doesn't look like Cliffjumper, it's still a cool-looking head. Okay, sure, he does have a bit of a backpack, but like the shoulder wheels do look rather cool though. So, articulation. Head, of course, can move around. The arms, they can move on a ratchet joint. The elbows are on a ball joint, so yeah. His wrists can technically move in. I guess he could technically T-pose, but the shoulder pads will get in the way, so I'll leave that at a maybe he can. Waist, nothing. The legs, they can move up that far, back that far. As shown in the transformation, he is able to do the splits, because this is a bit of his transformation. And I guess his feet could technically move. So yeah, pretty poseable. And normally this would be where I end the review. But keep in mind, this is an Energon / Superlink figure. And the box did show it on the side. So of course we need to show the Powerlink gimmick. And with this, I'm going to use the only other same size figure for the combination, that being Ironhide. And if you remember my review on Ironhide, that was before I had this guy, so I only combined it with some of the smaller deluxe figures, so the combinations were a bit weird looking. But now that I have another figure who's the same I cannot even speak. Now that I have a figure who's the same size class as Ironhide, and he also does the Powerlink gimmick thing, finally we can have a I can't remember what the size class is called, but we can have another you see, I can't even speak today, but we can have a Ironhide being in a Powerlink combination that doesn't look ridiculous. And to start off, we're gonna show Cliffjumper in his leg mode. So if you'll just excuse me as I get Ironhide into his torso mode. There we go. Now, to get Cliffjumper or Overdrive into his leg modes, well, we're going to start off with the actual robot legs. Fold up the heels. Take these bits and just fold them down, like so. Come in here, take the combined mode robot fist and move those down to form new heels. And then turn the legs around. Take the hands, if you can, and try and get them back into the arms. Then cover them with the windshield section. Lift that entire bit up. Take the wheels, move them down. Cover the head. If you can. Then split all that. Like so. And I guess we can do now is, well, what I like to do is have the wheels in like so. So this is pretty much the leg mode. So if we get Ironhide and attach him on, finally, here we have Ironhide in a Powerlink combination that doesn't look hideous. Sure, Overdrive's legs are pretty long, but still, at least it's actually proportional without looking like he has really tiny legs. However, the cost for that, we have a lot of junk in the trunk here. I mean, not only with Ironhide's arms, but with Cliffjumper's arms or Overdrive's arms, the spoiler section, and the wheels. I don't think this is how the wheels are officially supposed to go, but that's what I do. I suppose something else you can do is bend the legs one click so he's sort of leaning down so you can sort of see him a bit better. But yeah. And I believe this was seen in the show. Like, the only time Cliffjumper combined in leg modes was with Ironhide. Like, when he combined in torso mode, it was with Jetfire, who I sadly don't have right now. This is just one of those figures that's somehow hard to find in my version of eBay. Sometimes being a British/European fan can suck. Because, sure, like, just look at the American version of eBay. Like, you got tons of figures that are hard to find in like the UK and Scotland. I mean, they have Wheeljack from Armada. They've got Bulkhead from Energon. Whereas with my version of eBay, nothing. But before I go off on a tangent, let's get Cliffjumper into his torso mode. Alright, so now that we have Ironhide as a pair of trousers, let's get Cliffjumper or Overdrive into his torso mode. Well, to start off, take this bit and just at least move that out the way. Move the shoulder pads down and to cover the arms. And then move them around to form a new little chest shield. Take the wheels and open them up for now, at least. And then lift that bit up, I forgot to mention. And if you can, this is always a hard bit to do, split the waist around. Unplug this section, turn that around, and for some reason it's all creaky. There we go. Get the arms and move them out down like so. And then I guess the spoiler thing just goes down like so. So here we have Cliffjumper in torso mode. And if I can just get him combined with Ironhide here. Here we have Cliffjumper in his torso mode. Yeah, I don't know what to do with that. Maybe just leave it down. But yeah, that definitely is a pretty cool way of turning into a torso. I mean, of course he has the standard legs into arms stuff, but the way his shoulder pads form a new chest shield, or form a new chest plate, I find that pretty cool. So yeah, at least Ironhide finally has a properly sized combiner partner now. But if I can just get Cliffjumper back into his standard robot modes. There we go. Pretty much the last thing to do now is give him his weaponry. So just take one of the little things here. Plunk a missile in. And just put that in his hand. And with that, that's pretty much my review on Energon Cliffjumper / Superlink Overdrive. Now, do I recommend him? Well, of course I do. This is amazing. I mean, sure, you might not be able to get the Japanese version that easily, but if you can, I recommend it over the American version because the colors look way nicer in my opinion, and I just love the gold shoulder pads, as I think they make the figure stand out way better. Not to mention, I just think that Cliffjumper looks cool in general, no matter what version of him it is. Whether it's the American version or the Japanese version. But, well, say you don't really like the apple green or the yellow. Well, you do have an alternative. Although he might be harder to find in the Japanese version of this guy. There is a blue and white version of this figure called Beachcomber. And Beachcomber was in a series, albeit just as a powered-up version of Cliffjumper. But still, if you want this figure but you don't like the colors, I recommend going for Beachcomber. But if you really want this figure, and if you have the money or time to find it, go for Overdrive. However, if you don't mind, then go with Cliffjumper. But if you really want a good-looking version of this guy, go with Overdrive. So, this has been my review on Cliffjumper / Overdrive. And this is Charlie Young, signing off.